Hi, my name is Carly Brinson, and today I'll be informing you on Susan Smith, her background, the murders she committed, and her sentencing. I've done an in-depth case study on Susan Smith, and I majored in criminal psychology as well. Hopefully after listening to this, you'll know a little bit more and have a little more insight into what goes behind the murder scenes. And I'm sure all of you have heard of Ted Bundy, but none of you have heard of Susan Smith. And after watching a Dateline episode, I decided I wanted to do a case study of my own, and I chose her. She was born on September 26, 1971 in South Carolina. At age 7, her parents divorced, and 5 days later, her father committed suicide. Her mother remarried to a local preacher, and he molested Susan throughout her entire life. In high school, she was voted friendliest female and worked at a grocery store. And while at this grocery store, she was sexually active with 3 men and ended up getting pregnant. And then following her pregnancy, she had an abortion and attempted suicide by ODing on Tylenol and ibuprofen. And she admitted to trying a similar thing when she was 13. Following this, she began dating David Smith, who got her pregnant, and the two decided to get married after she got pregnant, and they had their first kid, Michael Smith. And the two had a lot of problems, but after she became pregnant again, they tried getting back together and had Alex Smith, but ended up breaking up again. Her relationships just escalated from there. She then began dating Tom Finley, who was the CEO of a super prestigious company, and she loved that because she loved material things. He tried to break up with her by writing a Dear John letter, and she didn't take it very well. She ran to his office and told him that she was being sexually active with Tom's dad, her stepfather, and David Smith, and he didn't take that well, kicked her out of his office, and Susan admitted that she wanted to die because she was so distraught over this breakup. She got in her car, strapped her sleeping children in their car seats in the back, drove to John D. Lake, and put the car in drive, put the parking brake on, got out of the car, took the parking brake off, and watched as it sunk into the river with her sleeping kids in the back. She immediately ran to a nearby house and said that at the stoplight that it was a deserted road, but a black man had jumped her with a gun and taken both of her kids. It was national news. For 9 days she was crying and saying, with David by her side, just pleading for her kids to be brought back home. The media began to question her because she lacked remorse and was always wondering how she looked and where Tom was. And the police began to question her because there were so many variations in her story, and her polygraph test was always inconclusive. And they didn't understand why the light would turn red when it was always green, and she said there were no cars around. So after being interrogated again, she began to cry and pray with her interrogator and said that she wanted to die and she wanted her kids to die, but ended up just getting out of the car last minute. The police found her car after she said where it was located. The kids were found hanging from their car seats in the back. The Dear John letter from Tom was in the back as well. And the autopsy confirmed that both kids were still alive when the car went into the river. Even though David was very sympathetic towards her during the search for her children, he lacked all sympathy when it came to her sentencing. The lawyers relied heavily on her background, her traumatic childhood, her suicidal thoughts and depression, and her dependency on others for her happiness. She was unresponsive during the trial, except for when they mentioned her children, and then she would shake her head in disbelief and quietly sob. She was given 30 to life, and she'll be eligible for parole in 2025. David attends every hearing to ensure that she will never be let out. He was disappointed to see that she didn't get the death penalty, which you can read more about in the Death Penalty by Molesky and Pesco. While in prison, she was sexually active with 2 men, with 2 of the guards there, and after receiving an STD, she was transferred to a different prison, and the 2 guards were charged. She also had a right of prisoner. It's basically like a pen pal account for prisoners. This is a handout I'll give to you guys after. But her account was taken down. Her 2 sons, Michael and Alex, were buried in the same casket by David's family in the United Methodist Church Cemetery. And Susan was diagnosed with dependent personality disorder, major depression, and histrionic personality disorder, which you can read more about in Female Aggression by Gavin and Porter. Thank you for letting me tell you about Susan Smith. Hopefully now you know more about her background, murders, and sentencing. And next time you see a murder on the news, you'll know a little bit more about what goes into it. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Why Susan Smith?
I just thought her story was super interesting, and how she acted like she tried to hide the murder and didn't fess up to it. Thank you.